Our first guest on today's show is noted Michigan attorney and was recently called by the Detroit Free Press as the most enthusiastic and well-studied candidate ever for a university board. We're happy to have him with us today, Mark Bernstein. Hi, Mark. How are you?
It's good to be here, Mark. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you back.
The 12th anniversary.
12th anniversary. That's your cue.
It's good to be here on the 12th anniversary.
You've been here many times before.
I haven't, but never on the 12th anniversary.
No, I don't know if you're going to get a drum for every time you say 12.
Yeah, sorry.
He's so far over there, I don't know if he can hear us.
Maybe on the 13th anniversary.
You've been part of JTV's history.
For a long time. Yeah. Behind the badge, we've done that with Chief Hines for a while.
Right.
And we were just talking about, I can't remember how long, I was just watching a clip of this. Maybe 5 years ago, roughly.
Yeah.
We shot the introduction to it that you were just showing a minute ago, and we went to the Jackson Police Department and we used their meeting room where the police officers get together before they go out on shifts, and it's filled with there's a display cabinet with
all the
history, right? Yeah. Then the rest of the room has these whiteboards around it, or a lot of whiteboards, and I remember. We didn't have a teleprompter, and there was a long introduction. So I took out a marker, and I wrote down on the whiteboard, some talking points, And then at the end of the shoot, we went to wipe it down, and we realized that we had used permanent marker all over the police department's whiteboards, and I realized we had graffitied the inside of the Jackson Police Department inadvertently. And so I remember calling Chief Hines and saying, we made a little bit of a mistake, and we sent them some new whiteboards, and I think everything. I haven't been arrested yet, but I may have to get out of here quickly after this event. So.
You probably know a good attorney.
I don't know. Yes, I do. I've never had to thankfully have a criminal attorney represent me.
Well, this is a new venture for you, running for office.
Yeah, it is. It's so I'm running for the University of Michigan Board of Regents, which is the governing board that oversees the University of Michigan, and it's a statewide election. Any registered voter in Michigan can vote for it. You don't have to go to the University of Michigan or be an alumnus or live in Ann Arbor or Flint or Dearborn. Folks in Jackson, people watching this show, can vote for this position, as they have done since 1852. So there's 8 regents, and they set the direction of the university. They decide tuition, they hire and fire the president, and they make a lot of the important decisions that the university has to contend with in the management of a university.
Well, it's certainly an important job, particularly when so many people are concerned about access and affordability.
Yeah.
And I know those are two of your big issues.
Two huge issues. We bought a bus. And it's outside right now. We drove here in it, and it to highlight the importance of making college affordable. We call it the Make College Affordable. Yeah,
there you are, rolling into
Make
Jackson.
College Affordable, and the importance of making college affordable and accessible for every Michigan student, for every Michigan family. And so we've driven this bus thousands and thousands of miles all across Michigan. This is our second or maybe third time in Jackson. We were in the Rose Parade earlier in the summer. And we've been to the Upper Peninsula. We've been to literally every corner of the state to talk to voters and families and students about the importance of making college more affordable, more accessible, and keeping it exceptional. Those are the things that are my goal as a candidate for the University of Michigan Board of Regents, and my priorities when I begin serving as a regent. The cost of college is absolutely out of control right now, and there's no fact that better illustrates that than this. If college costs at the University of Michigan continue to increase at the same rate that they have increased over the last 10 years, it will cost a child born today in Jackson, when he or she goes to the University of Michigan in about 18 years, it will cost that student over $305,000 to attend the University of Michigan for 4 years.
Wow.
That is unacceptable, and it's unsustainable. And so we need to have regents at the University of Michigan and all of our public universities. We have 15 of the most extraordinary public universities in the United States, in this state. It's a great treasure that this state we've built over the last, century and a half roughly. But we have to figure out a way to make these universities more affordable and more accessible. Some universities, we are headed into this transformative moment in higher education, and some universities are going to figure this out, and those universities are going to be big winners, and the states where those universities reside will benefit significantly. I want to make sure that the University of Michigan and all of the public universities in this state are winning at that game right now, because there's too much at stake right now. We have to keep these universities open, accessible, affordable, and exceptional. That is a tall order, because oftentimes those goals are in tension with each other. And so we need people who are going to think about these issues in a very thoughtful way, who have ideas about how to make this happen. And that's why I'm running for University of Michigan Board of Regents.
Mark, one question I've always had, you see these huge endowments, and I know a place like Harvard is probably the school with the largest endowment in the world, billions and billions and billions of dollars. Michigan has a big endowment as well. How do you see the use of the endowment in helping to make college costs affordable?
So it's a great question. So the University of Michigan has one of the largest endowments of any public institution in the world. The University of Michigan endowment, depending on how you measure, is roughly $8 billion. $8 billion.
With a B.
With a B, billion. And it is, the endowment, it's very tempting to say that we're just going to use the endowment to make the university more affordable. The trouble with that is, as much as I would love to do that, is that the endowment is made up of about 7,200 smaller, basically mini endowments, where a donor, if Bart Hawley says, I'm going to give $100 million to the University of Michigan, and you say, this is going to go towards the communications department to train future journalists, that money has to be used for that purpose. That's the donor's intent. Right. So you just can't go into the endowment and say, we're going to take this and use it for financial aid. But, and this is a proposal that I have, it's on my website, which you can visit at mgobernstein.com, along with many other very specific ideas to make college more affordable. My idea is to assess what I call an access allocation on the endowment, on new money raised in the endowment, and on the capital appreciation of the endowment. So for every dollar that the university raises, it's my proposal that 5% of that, 5 cents of that dollar, goes towards financial aid, no matter what the donor is interested in funding. I would imagine that if someone's giving $100 to the university, if they know that $5 of that's going to go to fund financial aid for students that need help, I don't think any donors are going to object to that. It's also an important symbolic statement about the importance of making the university affordable and accessible for low and middle income students. In addition to that, I would assess a 10% increase assessment on any of the capital appreciation of the endowment. If the university did this, we could raise approximately $125 million a year in financial aid. That's a ton of money.
Yeah.
And although there are challenges to this and it needs to be investigated in greater detail, that is how I propose using the endowment in a way that both preserves the endowment, is consistent with the law, and would generate significant amount of money to support financial aid. It's all about priorities at the university, like any organization. And the priority at the university needs to be making sure that this university can be open and affordable and accessible for every Michigan family.
Well, I know access, too, is one of your big issues. In fact, the Detroit Free Press, in their editorial last week, said that 2 of the candidates are unsupportable. One, because he was opposed to affirmative action, and the other has a narrow-minded stance on diversity.
Yeah.
How, from your standpoint, access for affirmative action and diversity?
Well, so 6 years ago, almost to the day, the MCRI Prop 2 passed. And that prohibits the University of Michigan from using race or gender in making decisions about admissions. And so the University of Michigan needs to abide by that law, by the Constitution of our state now. So the university is left with a need to preserve diversity, but it has to do so within the law. And as a lawyer, of course, I appreciate that and recognize that. Let me tell you a fact that's very important to me. The diversity comes in lots of different, there are lots of different versions of diversity or examples of diversity. The University of Michigan is increasingly becoming a university that is for the affluent and the privileged. The best way to measure how diverse a university is, its student body, with respect to its student body, the economic, socioeconomic status of its student body, would be, in my opinion, the number of Pell Grant recipients at that university, on that campus. Pell Grants are given by the federal government to low-income students. And so there's a lot of data on this. At the University of, so across all of the all the campuses in Michigan, public university campuses in Michigan, approximately 33% of students are Pell Grant recipients. At the University of Michigan, only 13% of the students are Pell Grant recipients. That gap tells a very troubling story about the economic diversity at the University of Michigan. That is an area that the university needs to do a much better job of. And so when you talk about diversity, when we talk about making sure that this university is open and accessible, those are the metrics that we need to look at and measure the university with as we hopefully make more progress. I've got lots of ideas to make progress there. But when we talk about keeping this university open and accessible, those are the things that I look at as telltale signs that we need to do a better job.
It's really never been a major push by any university when they have more applicants than they have space for.
Right.
The supply and demand forces some of those issues.
That's right. And there are a lot of people who think that, the University of Michigan, they get 42,000 applications for about 6,000 spots every year. And so it's supply and demand. They're getting tons of the demand, speaks for itself. There's not a problem. I view it differently. I view that the University of Michigan has an essential public mission, and that it's imperative that we keep these ladders of opportunity open. It's not a luxury anymore going to some form of post-secondary education. It's essential. It's the number one determinative factor in the success of a state, the wealth of a state. Household income across a state, the number one factor in that is educational attainment. Vibrant city centers is also extremely important. But there's a lot at stake here. It's not just about getting kids into school and getting them, it's a much broader issue than just, the specific educational mission of the university. This has economic development implications, it has healthcare implications, clearly has quality of life implications. And so we have to keep these universities open and accessible. James B. Angel, the longest serving president of the University of Michigan, Angel Hall is named after him on campus, it's a huge building. He used to say the mission of the University of Michigan is to provide an uncommon education to the common man. And that, I believe, really exemplifies the essential public mission of the University of Michigan. And we need to, these universities are straying from that public mission, and we need regents who are going to fight and win for these families to keep these universities open and accessible and exceptional.
Mark Bernstein is with us, candidate for U of M Board of Regents. And Mark, I can't recall any campaign by a candidate for regent at Wayne State, U of M, or Michigan State in past years to actually have a public campaign and do a full-scale advertising plan to get elected to the board. Why?
Well, we've ignored every ounce of conventional wisdom in this campaign. Every one. The general advice that we received is don't worry about it. Just fight to get the nomination, fight to get onto the ticket, and then just hope that the Democratic ticket does well. We're no doubt hoping that the Democratic ticket does well, because that will help in this campaign. But I believe very strongly that the way you run for this position says a lot about the type of work you're going to do as a regent. And the people of this state deserve better, to be candid. They deserve to know this is an important job, and they deserve to know what a candidate for this position intends to do when they get there. And it's important enough, I believe, to ask candidates for this position to go out and speak with people about what they think about the U of M Board of Regents. Since 1852, we've been electing the regents of the University of Michigan, and Wayne State, and Michigan State. And it's essential. There was a lot of wisdom in that decision to give the control of this university, these great institutions, to the people of the state. And I want to honor that wisdom by running a campaign filled with ideas and hustle, hard work, and showing up.
I think it's been troubling to everybody that would see that ballot for those 3 universities, and we don't know. We have no idea who these people are.
We've driven this bus to literally every corner of the state, and we've gone to places that are not traditionally Democratic locations. And I can't tell you the response we get everywhere and almost uniformly has been. I really appreciate the fact that you've shown up. No one's ever come here running for U of M Board of Regents.
We've got President Clinton's endorsement.
Yeah, so that's my old boss. 12 years ago, he was thinking about this. I was working at the White House.
You were?
And, yeah, he's my old boss, and worked in the press office with President Clinton and Hillary. She was actually the first person I worked for.
And Debbie Stabenow, she'll be here
Senator
tomorrow.
Stabenow, yeah, I understand she'll be here. She doesn't have a bus.
No, she doesn't.
I challenged her. She has a Winnebago. I challenged her Winnebago to a race, but I have not. You may want to raise that with her because we are still open to. We go over to MIS and we'll do a few loops.
We'll be there to film it.
That would be
great. She has to drive though.
I'm ready. She can drive.
I'm nervous. I saw in the clip that your bus was pulling away. How are you getting back?
I don't know. I'm going to walk, I think. I might beat the bus, though, actually. No, it's getting a little rickety.
You had a really landmark case. Your brother brought against the university for
that's right.
Handicapped accessibility to U of M Stadium.
That's right.
Which you won.
We did, yeah, he did. I mean, it was in some respects, so this was the case involving the construction of the stadium. And in many respects, this case was indicative of, I believe, some of the insular decision-making process that can occur at the University of Michigan in particular. Here's the university building this new stadium, and in complete violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Our clients were Paralyzed Veterans of America. These are men and women who lost limbs fighting for this country, who simply wanted to sit in the stadium and be able to get in and out of bathrooms and go up and down ramps that allowed them to enjoy the same freedoms that they fought for. And so the university said, we don't have to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act because we're not renovating the stadium, which everybody knew would trigger the ADA. We are simply repairing the stadium. And so therefore we don't have to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. That was, of course, a ridiculous argument. I mean, you don't do a repair that costs several $100 million or invite the governor to cut the red tape at a repair ceremony. I've never heard of a repair ceremony. And so we won that case. The George W. Bush's Justice Department attorney, so the caption on the case was the Paralyzed Veterans of America and the United States of America versus the University of Michigan. And we won that case. And one of the things that my brother always says, and it's a great way to think about this, is when you're fighting in a case, if you win that case, what did you win? What values did you advance? And in that particular case, what was the University of Michigan, if they had won that case, what was their victory? That they excluded paralyzed veterans from using the restroom or going up, the ability to go in and out of the stadium? Sometimes the University of Michigan falls short of its own ideals. It's easy to talk a big game when you're talking about diversity and honoring being inclusive and tolerant. But when it comes time to write a check for it, sometimes those values get a little compromised or a lot compromised. We always say in my law firm that a value is nothing unless it costs you something. And that is what happened in that case. I'm proud that we won that case. And that's the kind of fighting and winning for everyday people inside or against a very powerful institution. And that's the kind of voice I'll be on the Board of Regents. Someone who's going to not be a rubber stamp for the faculty, for the administration or the president, but be there to stand up for the people of the state, to make college more affordable, more accessible, and exceptional.
He's on the Democratic ballot for U of M Regent and our guest today. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's great to be here.
And we could use a few more bathrooms in the big house.
That's done.
Okay.
They'll never lose a game if I'm a regent. They'll go 80-0.
You can find out more about Mark Bernstein at mgobernstein.com. Mark Bernstein.
Thank you.